Welcome. Today I want to discuss being raised by a narcissistic parent. Often it's the mother. And in the past we've discussed being in a manipulative relationship with a significant other, which is also psychologically damaging. But the effects of being raised by a narcissist are even more damaging because the psychological abuse happens in formative childhood years. And so not only do you form an insecure attachment, but you're experiencing all of the psychological abuse that you're now taking on and feeling like it's your fault, feeling like there's something wrong with you. And I'm here to assure you, if you don't already know, it's not your fault. You did not deserve that form of severe abuse. And that's exactly what it is. Sometimes the narcissist is aware of what they're doing. Other times they're completely unaware. It's their own baggage that was handed down to them from multiple generations of family abuse. So let's talk about what a narcissistic parent might look like, or what some of those behaviors might look like, right? Because you might not even know what was wrong with your parent. You might just feel like there were some abusive qualities. Your parent likely was not diagnosed as narcissistic because often they have the, oh, nothing's wrong with me qualities, right? Narcissists don't like to admit that there's anything wrong with them. And that's okay. There doesn't have to be a formal diagnosis to kind of sum up the characteristics and qualities of them, and for you to have peace of mind on what was going on in your childhood. So some of the qualities of a narcissistic parent are being really rigid, really ultra strict, guilt tripping, saying things like, I've done everything for you, I can't believe this, or why can't you be like Susie Q or Bobby Joe, right? It's your fault your father left us. Sayings like that. You probably have your own version if you were raised by a narcissist. Being overly controlling or saying overly negative things to you. Devaluing, discarding, or possibly even teasing you. It's very hurtful. Saying everything is your fault, not taking personal responsibility. A narcissist does not like to take personal responsibility. Having to look the certain way in public. Maybe they took pictures with you and you were sort of their prime possession, but then you get home and they don't care anything about what you have to say. Maybe you weren't allowed to display emotions in front of them. So those are some of the behaviors and qualities, traits of a narcissistic parent. Okay, now let's transition and talk about traits of you as an adult if you were raised by a narcissist. And these are not, you don't have to have all of these traits. Some people fare better than others, and this is not meant to be an insult. It's meant to help you understand if you have these qualities or traits, if you have these behaviors, it might be because you were raised with a narcissistic parent. And once we have this awareness, we're then able, awareness is the catalyst of change, so we're then able to correct these behaviors and traits and get unstuck and get to where we want to go. So some of the most common behaviors that I see as a coach are low self-esteem, right? Being codependent, that's a big one. Being people pleasers, that's the only way that they could get perceived love from their parent, was to do everything to please their parent, their narcissistic parent. Lack of and fear of boundaries, that's a really big one, because they weren't respected as a child. Being perfectionist, everything has to be perfect. They're typically really uptight. Self-sabotaging behaviors, right? They don't feel like they're worthy. And so maybe even subconsciously or unconsciously, they sabotage relationships that they're in now because of their childhood experiences. So how do we fix these things and have healthy relationships as an adult if we were raised by a narcissist? How do we break these self-limiting patterns? Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is learn to set and enforce healthy boundaries, especially with the narcissistic parent if they're still part of our lives. Okay, really, really important. We can't let them walk all over us like a doormat anymore. Number 2 is we need to go within and learn to reparent ourselves. So what does that look like? That looks like maybe writing our childhood self a letter, assuring the child within, because it's always within us, that we're now safe, that, you know, in the present moment, we have power over how our future is going to look. It might look like assuring ourselves that we can now tell ourselves everything that we needed to hear as children right here, right now. So everything that your narcissistic parent didn't tell you that you wanted to hear, say to yourself now. Being raised by a narcissistic parent, you may have missed out on a lot of childhood experiences that were hurtful to you. So allow your inner child to come out, have playtime, have creative time, get involved in a hobby that you really enjoy. Go to a playground and go down the slide or swing on a swing. Literally play. It's important in the healing process, literally. Be adventurous. And then, you know, if your narcissistic parent is not respecting the boundaries that you've set, you may need to block contact with that person in order to protect your emotional energy as an adult. And that's a hard one, especially if you have children and you know that narcissistic parent is now a narcissistic grandparent. But you not only have to protect your energy, you have to protect your grandchildren's energy. And, you know, sometimes it's only for a limited amount of time until they've learned their lesson and learn how to respect you as an adult. And sometimes it's permanent. But it's okay. You're allowed to do those things. And it's sometimes for the best. Okay? So that's all part of the healing journey. And finally, consider coaching and or therapy. Sometimes a combination of coaching and therapy is really helpful. And I'll explain quickly the differences. Coaching can help you increase your confidence and self-esteem. It can also teach you healing modalities for learning to go within. It can teach you meditation techniques, yoga techniques, with certain coaches. I use those techniques for my coaching clients because it helped me heal. A lot of people who've had narcissistic parents have CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress syndrome. And to me, the best way to heal from that is to go within. Therapy is great for talking things out, which we also do a little bit in coaching. But a lot of the healing happens when you go within. And so I teach my clients through coaching how to go within, to journal, to do positive affirmations, meditation, and yoga, which unlocks a lot of our energy blocks within. And it's very healing. It's spiritual energy. Even if you think you don't believe in spirituality, it's very healing. It connects us to our divine self, our highest self, which really unblocks that self-sabotaging side that gets in the way of all that we desire. So the therapy component is helpful in conjunction with coaching. And therapy, a therapist can work with you in cognitive behavioral therapy, which can question whether the thoughts that we're having are true and help replace those thoughts with more positive thoughts, which is very helpful in healing trauma, certainly, and which, being raised by a narcissist, you probably have a lot of trauma. And also, some therapists are trained in EMDR, which is an eye therapy, which can be really helpful in healing repressed memories that you may not even be aware you have. So those are my tips for today on what happens if you were raised by a narcissistic parent, or if you suspect you've been raised by a narcissistic parent. It's more common than people really suspect. If your parent, as an adult, if you call your parent and they aren't showing any interest in how your life is going or your family's life, and they only talk about themselves, they may very well be narcissistic. If they're not calling and checking in and asking how you are, they may very likely be narcissistic. If they only talk about themselves and their problems, they may very likely be narcissistic. So it can cause a lot of damage in your life, and it's not your fault. You did not do anything wrong. You are worthy of love. I want you to look in the mirror every day and say, I love you, to yourself, until the day that you believe it and that you're confident and you can practice self-acceptance. That's where the healing journey goes. In case no one has told you yet today, you are absolutely amazing. Feel free to comment. Tell me about your experiences with narcissists. It's becoming more and more prevalent, unfortunately, and we can all heal together. So thank you to those who have subscribed. If you haven't yet, just hit that button. Thank you.